Welcome to Cooperville podcast slash Twitch live stream slash quarantine sessions. We're just going to call it the Slash Show, you know? My buddy Joey A is hanging out with me. Midwest in the house.
Hey, represent.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to do this.
No, I'm really glad we got to connect. And since connecting, thanks to Jody, who I'm sure will jump in the chat here on Twitch very soon. I've gotten a chance to kind of follow you on your socials and see what you got going on. And like, I think we found out more about like the weird tangled web that music creates within itself because of that. Greg Cash and I go back many years, and I see you post a video, and there's Greg on there just being Greg, which is, an amazing human being. And I'm like, wait a minute, like we're like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon connected.
Straight up, man. Greg is his heart is so enormous. Him and Dylan Howard and the guy, I met them through Jim Kaufman. It's amazing the connections that you find in music, and you start to have, you basically look back after like 10 years in it or however long, and you have like family everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah,
insane.
It's been wild to follow your story a little bit here, and glad we get you on the live stream. And again, for those who are jumping in the chat right now, feel free to let know that you're hanging out, and remember that of course the video goes live then to YouTube after we're done here, and then will be podcasted on all major podcast platforms. But Joey, getting to you and your kind of story, music always has I always kind of lead in with this. Because being in the outside of the music industry, it's all like, circular. There's the musicians and the talent, and then there's the management, and then there's the crew, and then there's radio, and then there's, record labels. It's all circular. But being on the outside of one of those circles in radio for 2 decades, it's always interesting to me to find out like the path that leads you to pursue music, because there's so many. Even when you grow up as a kid, they're like, well, you could be a firefighter, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer. They always throw those 3 big ones out there. You could follow in, the footsteps of, your great uncle who was an army general. All these things are out there. But music is one of those things that's really, that when you find it at a young age, like you really have to want to do it. You can't, if you want to have any sort of success in music, you really have to want to do it, because it's not the glitz and glams of 80s Motley Crue videos. It's a grind out there for sure. So what led you down the path into music being something that you you wanted to do as a career?
So I think that music started, I've always had this creative thing. My imagination was super, super vivid as a kid. And I saw these home videos where my dad was holding headphones on my mom when I was in her. So they were always, to start, from the origin, they were always very, very supportive. My father put a guitar in my lap when I was like a year old, and I started getting serious, and it's funny to say serious, but I started getting serious with it around 8 years old. And then like I just quit everything. I used to play sports, and I quit girlfriends, sports, everything around 12. And I just started religiously, like the 6-hour, 8-hour a day thing. I got into like John Petrucci, Steve Vai, all those guys were like, John was like Jesus to me as a kid. And I remember just, like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Playing the instrument was one thing, but then when I started performing live, like I think the first live show was like 12 or something, or then I remember particularly the Battle of Bands when I was 13, we played, and the high I got there, we graduated with 200 people, but it looked like, I don't know if they're swearing a lot on this.
Oh yeah, we're not FCC regulated here, so we're good.
I love it. It looked like, it was like a sea, and the high I got, that rush I got was unreal. And when I got off stage, I knew right then and there, this is what I want to do, no matter what. I'm in the no matter what club. So
there's no other option. There's no plan B.
There is no plan. But we, my buddies and I joke in LA, we burned the boats.
That's a Tony Robbins thing, isn't it? Like, if you want to,
I didn't know. Yeah.
I think it's a Tony Robbins reference. If you want to get people, to take the island, burn the boats, because then there's no other option. You're out of luck, man. You're staying on.
Straight up, we're out here, and there's something that happens with, I find now that I'm becoming a little less precious with my songs, and want to put more of them out. There's something that comes from urgency.
Yeah.
you know, having to do it.
Yeah. And do you find that you put the most pressure on yourself? I mean, are you one of those guys that's I don't want to say self motivation is a weird conundrum, and we can get into all the audio books and quotes and post-it notes I have around my mirrors in my house about that self motivation stuff. But are you a guy that drives your own aspirations? Like you're the person that has the pressure on yourself to get after it, whether it's writing, whether it's putting music out, whether it's I know you're a gym rat, getting after it kind of guy yourself. So are you self-motivating yourself? Is that you're the guy with the thumb on your top of your head?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, absolutely. For a long time, I can it's two sides of the same coin. So like if you're kind of driven, if you have this drive, you have to make sure that you don't also beat yourself up. There's a balance. I think there's a real balance that you have to find. And for a few years there, maybe a little longer, I was absolutely beating the shit out of myself.
Yeah.
So I think that what I found now is that if you kind of don't touch things, if you kind of do what you need to do, but allow the universe to do, once you start doing something, things start to open up. You know what I mean? And I don't have to touch too much. As far as being a perfectionist though, yeah, I mean that runs deep. And I think that anyone, whether it's radio, whether it's being a school teacher, whether it's being in the gym or anything you do, I think you have to there's just a balance. I think that's what I'm getting at,
And balance is a tough thing to find. I mean, and I found myself in that same boat, less than a year ago, where it was constantly about work. Everything else kind of took a back seat. I got out of radio. I started my own beard company. I had the podcast. I started a second podcast. I was training people to do podcasts. I was getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and running and lifting and everything else in my life seemed to take a back seat. And namely that was my kid. We didn't, it feels like last summer we didn't do anything fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, now we'll go on the boat, another time. Now we'll go to the beach another time. We'll go and, go camping a different time. And, I got to a point in 2020's been, and we'll get into that. What a strange life we are all living through this year. But, it got to a point where it was like, there has to be balance. There has to be, you have to teeter-totter a little bit on the work and putting in the effort, but you also have to kind of let, you said the universe, sometimes life just has to kind of even it out. So there's a little bit of best of both worlds, as Sammy Hagar would say.
Absolutely. It's actually funny. Drew Hagar and Sammy's son, we're making a record right now. Hold on.
No, go ahead.
We got together. We've been friends for a few years now, 3-4 years. And we got together finally. I had finally gotten off the road. I got a job out in LA touring and writing with a band. And I got out there and we finally, because he lives out there, and we finally linked up. We started writing and magic happened. We actually just released, I think it was maybe May. We released his first song, Judgment Day. I produced that and wrote it with him. Oh
man, I can't speak enough good things about his father, man. I was always a Van Hagar guy, and following Sammy, and just I always love when they put like a picture of like Bill Clinton and Sammy Hagar next to each other because they're about the same age, and just Sammy's living in Cabo and playing rock and roll for whatever 40 years, 50 years, and drinking tequila, and he looks about 30 years younger than Bill Clinton does, but that's that kind of talent and that kind of, I want to like the freedom of life. Like there's a guy who goes out and just, man, that dude enjoys life every single day. And I just, that's something to, I think, aspire to. And obviously it sounds like the talent was passed along through the lineage of Sammy on down.
Well, Andrew is so humble. He's so humble, and humility is really important. It allows everyone to work in a room collaboratively, if that's even a word. It allows us to collaborate. and be kind of free, because my job is if I'm I work on, like they say both sides of the glass. So I produce and I'm an artist. As an artist, I'm just there to serve the song. So it's like, if we can both come there and basically our goal is to check our egos at the door.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then we're able to bring the song to life. You know, Stephen King said that his book On Writing really changed my life. And he talks about how the song creation or whatever is already out there. And it's almost like an artifact that we have to dig up.
Right.
It's already there, it could be us that dig it up, or it could be someone else that digs it up. But the idea is already out there, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a great analogy to a lot of things in life, that all the stuff that you want, all the magic you want to find in life, it exists. It's just the adventure is finding it, digging it up, and dusting it off a little bit. I have to say, the Reaper, Mandy Nicole says, "Love you, Joey A." Kinder 15, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us here on Twitch. Appreciate it. There's it's being on both sides of the glass thing. That's such an awesome. I'm sure it exists a lot, especially in places like LA and Nashville and the hubs of the music industry. But I imagine that being able to do that, being able to be on both sides, really gives you an amazing perspective and advantage, because there's some that just stay on one side of the glass, and there's some that, you know, it feels like a more cohesive unit. If you like, okay, I know what it's like to be in the booth singing, or playing guitar on this track, or to be back in the booth, mixing things down. It's got to be a great perspective to know that you can sit in both chairs.
It's cool because you're able to gain this kind of objectivity that you wouldn't have otherwise. And with production, it's back to supportive people in my life. I remember my dad got me a computer, and he one day he walked in, I was practicing, and he dropped this like Cakewalk guitar tracks or something on the thing, and I was like, what the hell is this? It's a CD. And it was recording software. So like right then and there, I started writing songs. And I've been blessed to work with a lot of amazing producers, guys who have had like pretty big success in like different bands I was in and stuff like that. But what I will say is that I'm grateful that I took the time to learn how to do it myself, because it has enabled me like a freedom. Basically, it's basically artist producer label. It's the whole thing. You know what I mean? We're kind of this. I have the foundation now to where if I have an idea in my head, I'm able to get it out. And I love to do, and I teach that too. So I'll teach the production and writing as well as the guitar and voice. So it's just really fun to not only fun, it's good to have the freedom. I like having options,
Right.
As someone who's afraid of committing historically.
historically commitment phobe, but we'll stricken that from the record if we need to at a later date. I'm just saying. Yeah. But I did see, I can't see with the headphones on, but I saw you got the mullet cut. You were rocking the mullet now. It's a
baby mullet.
Baby mullet.
It's a baby mullet. We're working on that rat tail. I'm trying to get on that Theo Von tip. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, dude, I had a rat tail before rat tails were cool. Actually, they were cool back in like the 90s. It was like a boy band thing. There was a bunch of boy bands that had rat tails, and for some reason I decided I wanted to be a part of that clique. And so I had like a ridiculous one. I remember when I got it cut, I had it for years. And I mean, that's probably why I went without a girlfriend for so long. No, I'm kidding.
No, dude, I think that's sexy. I think the rat tail's sexy, bro.
Come back here. But I remember the beautician or the chick at the haircut place, but like she almost cried because I was like, yeah, I think it's time to go. And she like teared up, and I was like, wow, like, and that's, I guess, when you're dedicated to the craft.
Well, she had been probably singing for how many years? She's like, I can't. It's like parting with a family member.
Like,
I mean, you can't.
I'm gonna miss this. This is the saddest day ever. I'm like, I know it's.
Did you have like a bead? Did you braid it and have like a bead in it? I've always wanted beads in it, like Lane Staley did with his beard, or Johnny Depp.
I think there was a braid that happened at some point. It got to the length and girth where it could be. And I must have had a girlfriend because I know nobody else is gonna mess with that rat tail in the back. But no, she cried, man. It was sad. But I think quarantine has given us all like I went long time, months without a haircut. And that's, I mean, I'm usually, you know, I got my guy, my fade is high. He's like a pro. It's by appointment only.
Yeah.
But to be without him, I was like, it was I lost like 10 pounds, I think, when I got my first haircut after we could do it again up here.
Was it long?
It was, man, I can't, at my age, I can't do the hair over the ear thing. And then, you know, I got this whole, you know, I got this going on, and it was just like, I mean, you know, Forrest Gump, when he's running in the movie and then he just stops and they show that like still picture of him and he's like, I'm going to stop running now. I looked like that. It was just like this weird, I don't know. It was no bueno.
It's good. No bueno. CC, it has, it's good to have like, it be lower maintenance. I feel that.
Yes. Especially when you're active.
Yeah. It gets unruly. Oh yeah. Out there and stuff. It's hot. It's hot here. I'm in Ohio now for like lockdown times. Yeah. And, yeah, it's getting hot out there, but luckily it's not too humid this week.
Yeah. We've gotten it up here though. Yesterday, I think, the heat index was like 101 up here, you know?
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's Wisconsin, man. We're not, our bodies aren't made for this kind of stuff. You know, I got that frail Irish skin, and it's not, I meant from the sunshine.
I love that. Well, I'm Italian, you're Irish. We're basically the same. We're the same.
Yes. We come from the same diet plan too, I think. Just carb loading and alcohol. That's like the two things.
Carb loading, alcohol, and guilt.
Yes. Oh God. Guilt. Family guilt. Call your mother. Yeah, sorry. Yes, Grandma, I will. But musically speaking, I know you got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming up right now, and I want to talk about like creating music during lockdown, quarantine. I mean, you talked about your dad giving you recording software at a younger age. You know, 2020 has kind of been this year of unrest, uncertainty. You know, there's no live music. I mean, I host, you know, 2 big music festivals up here. I was hosting a podcast for one of them. Everything is shut down. It's all canceled. But from the artist standpoint, do you find that during this, you've had a chance to I don't want to say be more creative, because you're a creative individual by nature, but finding these new avenues and ways to get music out to people, you know, really utilizing the social media, and I know you're doing a bunch of Facebook Live stuff lately. Have you noticed that the creative juices maybe are a little amped up because there's no outlet for you to go and be on a stage and perform and do what, you know, it's second nature to you?
Certainly. I think now more than ever, I mean, there's been talk that obviously there's more eyes on the platforms now. People are kind of slowing down, but I think in general, as far as being creative, it made me, I don't want to speak on other people, but it did make me kind of take a minute when you're out in like, I live in Hollywood, right? So it's hustle and bustle. Everyone's a hustler. Everyone's doing their thing. And when you have something like this, it makes everyone almost stop and take a breath. Mm-hmm. It made me stop and take a breath and go, what really matters? I think if you do a lot of things, it's still important to make a decision as to what you want to do. And that's why I decided, I was like, you know what? My heart has always been in being an artist. I love to produce. I do that. I love to write. But now is the time to really get the music out. And I've been blessed, like you were saying with the Facebook Lives, I've been blessed. I mean, the channels are growing, and the enthusiasm is really there, you know? So I decided to really start investing in my name, just Joey Ariema, investing in the name. People call me Joey A because the Italian last name is but our fan community is called the A-List, and it's crazy seeing it grow. It's really humbling. Now, granted, it is an unprecedented time. It's scary. People are getting sick. But I think if you're able to find a way to channel this energy into something positive, I think we're all better off, and we'll be able to bring some new creativity to the world. Yeah.
I got to give it, Brian Wilson is here. We got A-listers. We got Amy Lee says A-list in the house. Mandy Nicole, so glad she came across you. Proud A-list member. So the A-list is here. They're representing live on Twitch at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central Time here on a Thursday. Love it, man. It's great.
Beautiful. Love you guys.
It's the technology thing, I think, has been, for being in the industry, and I was in it for 20 years, at many different levels, from, you know, weekend warrior, you know, talking big on the radio, doing the awesome midnight to 6 a.m. shift on Friday. that really works out well for the social life, especially in a city like Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, I missed out on so much, but it was
Yeah.
the launching pad of my radio career. But going through really the late part of the '90s and all the way through the O's and pretty much through the tens, it's amazing to see the veil is, it feels like it's lifted a little bit. The veil between artist and fan. There always used to be, there's barricades at a concert, there's, backstage access, and there's not. But the social media thing, especially being now real, unveiled even more during this quarantine COVID-19 thing, is that artists seem more tangible now, I think, maybe than ever before. They're real human beings, and not that you never were not a human being, obviously, unless
Right.
you're a cyborg. Then this is really cool for me to be able to be the first one to have that cyborg podcast. But
Experience.
it's you see musicians, you see guys like yourself, and you see different artists at home, performing on their couch, and you see them in this like real life light, where before it was you see a band on stage or you see an artist on stage, and you almost didn't think that life existed for them outside of, they go up and it's the show, and they get
Yeah.
off and they live this life that nobody can comprehend. But this has really brought, I think, artist and fan closer together. I think maybe that's why you see, the increase in the A-list and growing, because I think people are finding all these avenues, and I've done it myself, all these avenues to new artists, new music. They're jumping on social media, or they're jumping on your Pandoras or your Spotifys, and they're just discovering all this music that's out there that maybe they didn't get a chance to get exposed to when life was quote unquote normal.
Mm. Like I said, I think it causes people to. That's a great point, man. I think it's causes people to pause, and more people are paying attention. But I think it's certainly like law of attraction. Like
Right.
if you're putting off good energy and you're kind of trying to be a positive influence or impact in the world, I think that people are attracted to that.
Mm.
And I think this kind of lockdown and the pandemic has made me realize like how short and how fragile life is, and that the time is now. We have to
Right.
do whatever you want to do. And for anyone that's listening to, like, I'm not trying to preach, but whatever you want to do, whatever sort of dreams you have, there's really no time like now, no time like the present, just to start at it. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I'm very black and white thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about before, perfectionist. I'm an extremist. Like, let's go. If I'm trying to lose weight, it's like, I'm gonna drop 10 pounds in a week. It's crazy. You don't got to get crazy with it. It's just that if you start to make a little list and kind of check everything off that check things off that list day by day, man, you'd be surprised what happens in a week or two,
I couldn't agree with that statement and that kind of that philosophy more than I do, because I think when you have everybody has this idea that time like exists forever, and it does, but not in the sense that it exists for us forever. Time essentially will go on, and well, after 2020, who knows? We could reinvent, like things could be completely different as you get into 2021 and beyond. But there's always this sense of, well, tomorrow, man, I really love doing this particular thing, but I'm going to wait until the right time. And there never really is a better time than doing something right now. I like I said, left radio after 20 years, had no idea what I wanted to do. Started a podcast because I'm like, well, I like to talk, so I guess now I can talk and I can say fuck, and yay, the whole world wins. It's a better place now. But I got to a point late last year where I was like, I don't know where my direction is. I didn't have that thing. I always had a constant in my life, and that was radio. It was always music. It was always radio. It was always promotions, events. It was always a constant. When that went away, I was like, well, now I'm just kind of floating out in no man's land with no real direction. So I started journaling, and I'm a huge advocate for writing things down and kind of following your thought pattern that goes from your brain down to a piece of paper. I wrote down I have a beard. I'd like to start a beard company. And that was September of last year. And by November, we had product in shelves, on stores, and available online. So it's really, you talk about that checklist. You don't need to do everything in one day.
Yeah.
But if you can make that step from, I have an idea, to how would I get from the idea to have it be reality? I have to do these 2 things. Oh, I have to do these 3, 4 things. Okay, well, if I get these 2 done today, then tomorrow I need to do these things. And if you, whatever you have that end goal as, you can accomplish it. But people think that it's like, well, I want to learn how to play guitar. And then they try once, like, well, I don't know how to play Stairway to Heaven yet, so I'm out. I'm not going to try this anymore. I'm done. I'm bouncing. But if you learn a chord today, learn how to strum this particular, 3 chords, learn the basics, and eventually you progress and you become talented at it. So I'm a huge advocate for finding something that you want, that gives you happiness in life, that gives you like purpose, and then wake up every morning and go, damn, today doesn't suck.
Yeah, I think meaning, right? Like a lot of people, like, at least in my generation, it feels like a lot of people are struggling in their 20s. People are struggling with purpose. I'm not saying everyone is, but I'm saying that some people, a lot of my friends I've talked to, they feel like they're struggling with purpose. And I think that meaning and purpose comes from finding something that you love and finding a passion and really doing it. Yeah. When I'm not writing, if I'm not creating, if I'm not playing on stage, I get goosebumps just talking about this. Like, if I'm not creating or doing something regarding like I said, the imagination's always been there. If I'm not like flexing that and like living with that or doing something positive, I am crazy. I'm not fun to be around. You know what I mean? It's like me pre-coffee. Like in the morning, I can't even speak English. You know what I mean? But that's the same thing. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, you could love to draw. There are things today, like we have so many tools at our fingertips, but because it's almost like, how you said that artists no longer are like on this crazy pedestal,
right?
It's kind of a blessing because more people, it's almost like the gatekeepers are a little more at bay. More people are able to do it. You just have to figure out how to do many things, and you kind of have to do them with Squarespace, with Twitch, with an interface, Zoom, and a microphone. You know what I mean? Right. More people are able to do it, but we have to wear many hats.
Yeah, and there's also a pretty distinct line between those who really want to be an artist or really want to be in the spotlight, I guess, and those who will learn how to do all of the things that you just mentioned, that understand that platforms like social media, as positive or negative as your vibe on social media is, I think the things that you follow on social media can be incredibly positive if you follow the right things and if you have the right group of friends on there. But if you're not on Twitch or TikTok, I don't know if that's going to be around very much longer. They're talking about banning TikTok, but there's all these platforms, Instagram Live, doing Facebook Live, YouTube channels, putting up slices of life stuff and musical stuff. If you're not willing to learn at least the basics of how those programs work, you're missing out on this incredible opportunity right now where you talked about eyes being on the phone, and as 2020 as that sounds, it's just the facts. That's where people are experiencing life right now because even though there's been some restrictions and some things lifted here in Wisconsin, my mom lives out in Northern California and they're shutting things back down again. So it's kind of back to her and I, conversing on Zoom, or we'll get on the House Party app and have conversations. So I think if you're willing to kind of put that extra effort in and get that exposure, and say here on this, our Twitch conversation today, or via the YouTube video that goes out, of the podcast, 5, 6, 10 more people join the A-list. Now all of a sudden you have them following your story. They're following your live stuff. They're following the new song that comes out tomorrow, which we're going to talk about, which I was just jamming to before we we jumped on here, which I mean, I'm not sure there's a better opening line to a song ever, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Dramatic cause for effect. But you have to be willing to embrace these platforms out there, because you're right. I think the old world order and the way things worked in the music industry, they're kind of in this taken back mode where we're kind of in the Wild West. You know, you want to you can come out of here, out of 2020, go from 2019 having, you know, a handful of followers, and go into 2021 and just be this huge entity because you dedicated the time to social media. You got music out, you performed, you know, on your couch, you know, and you gained all these followers. And that's kind of the new world order of how I foresee the music industry going, is in this social space, internet world.
Certainly. I think you'd mentioned something like getting 5 or 10 new people with every new thing you did. And I think what matters is every single one of those people. A lot of people want the quick. We live in a time, it's this weird juxtaposition, because we live in a time where you can reach more people quicker than any time in history thus far. However, people want this instant gratification, quick thing where it's like, well, I got to 100 people or I got to 10 people, but I didn't get to 1 million people like said artist on Interscope.
Right.
Okay. But at the end of the day, 5 new people, the way we treat it, like in the community that we're building, like with my music and stuff, every single person matters. I mean, these are individual people. And I think we just, like at the A-list, we just treat people like they matter, and because they do. Yeah. You know, if there's one thing you can do that helps someone positively each day, or gives someone a positive impact each day, I mean, I think you won.
Yeah.
Now, you know, when you have big partners and, you know what I mean, stuff like that, like I know that there's certain metrics you got to hit and everything, but to me, man, it's like we're all inclusive. If, you know, 5 or 10 new people come in, welcome to the fam. I'm grateful to know you now through Jody. Thank you, Jody. And I'm looking forward to meeting you and hanging, maybe, man, you know, doing some shows. I think once all this is done, we're going to start doing some shows across the country. So definitely have you out, and we'll get after it, you know?
Absolutely, man. And there's a lot of chat over here, or a lot of conversation in the chat over here about, can't wait to get you out on the road again. And yes, we all want the world to open back up. Live shows, I think, is something that a lot of people miss. And I've really, having been a live show guy for many years and love that atmosphere, everything from small club shows, acoustic performances, to, you know, major festivals with 25, 30,000 people, you know, and that's gone at all those levels. And I mean, I've loved, like I've talked about, I loved what it's opened up, I think, for the communication between artist and fan. I love what it's done for indie artists who can get this exposure when you have a lot of eyes on platforms and people that are willing to go and be a part of them and add, you know, basically snapshots of their real life on social media to let their fans be a part of it. But when, you know, that live, there's nothing like a live show. There's nothing like when the bass drum kicks, when a band starts and you feel it right here, and it rattles a little bit. It just gets you right in the diaphragm, and you're just like, ugh. And I mean, now I'm getting chills thinking about that
powerful,
that opening beat, you know, and then it just rips, and you're amongst great human beings who are there for that one purpose. I mean, I'm with everybody in the chat, Mandy, Amy Lee, Everett Pickler 95. Yeah, we're missing live shows. We can't wait for them to get back. But I think this has kept a lot of people sane as you can be during a quarantine experience of 2020, is having that relatability, being able to go and watch Joey on a Facebook Live and interact with him and ask him questions, or just, you know, say, hey, thanks for, you know, this moment where you get to play music and we get to be a part of it. So yeah, we're all waiting for live shows to come back, and I'm sure you are as well, sir.
Dude, the power, absolutely. The power you get from playing in front of people. I mean, you know, I've been blessed to play in front of a lot of people, and obviously coming up playing a lot of clubs with not a lot of people. But either way, man, we treat every show, and it's a cliche at this point, but we treat every show like, you know, I treat every show like there's 50,000 people in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like you just give it. And it's been an experience and kind of a learning experience, like playing these live things, because I want to be as interactive as humanly possible. But you're performing and you're like, is it a concert? Is this, it's almost, you're working, man. When you go up there and do a live, like there's no overdubs, you know what I mean? You got to go out there and do it. So it's making me a better player, because I'm having to sit there with an acoustic guitar normally, like, and people that are coming in, they think maybe I'm just like an acoustic guitar player singer, but it's like, I'm from bands. I mean, you know how Greg and Dylan and those boys roll. I mean, we're like rock. It's like a rock thing live, but it's making me have a lot of fun with the acoustic and the voice, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's a chance to, I want to say, expand the horizon a little bit, but to add something else into the arsenal that, you know, when you're sitting picking on an acoustic, obviously, you know, the differences between that and being plugged in and electric and live and loud and trying to watch for Greg's bass guitar to come flying over your top of your head. Man, I've seen that. I've seen that shit live before, man. That's wild. Love him. Yeah. But you have to kind of embrace the current situation. And I'm sure you've seen other bands that have not tried it. Some bands have really pulled off nice live plugged in concerts. You can just feel the difference. I remember watching one of the first ones that went down. Dropkick did their St. Paddy's Day show from Boston, live with no audience, and like I was into it, but I'm like, man, it's got to feel like shooting a 90-minute music video, because there's nobody there but the camera guys, and they're just, you know, they're trying to be all like shipping up to Boston, and then like the one camera guy's in the back like, yeah.
It's crazy. It's like watching the Ferguson fight without anyone in the audience. I was like, these guys are just roughing each other up, and I was like, wow, it's got to be so different without an audience. They're like sparring. Yeah,
and when they hit, you know, the sound of a punch when there's not, like, you know, 25, 50,000 people to absorb that noise, like, oh damn, that's wicked. Wicked hurts.
Yeah, right.
Thunk. But no, man, it's you know, we're all gonna come out of this, I think, with a new perspective, and I've mentioned this on several other podcasts. Is, you know, those times when you see a band coming through town, and you're like, it's a Sunday show, or it's late, or I've had a long day. Like, nobody's fucking not going to a show now. Like, everybody's going to the show. Like, I don't care. We're going. It starts at 10. I don't care. It's a school night. I don't care. We're going to the show. They're going to go now because they've had it taken away from them.
Well, right. Once we take advantage of, or we take for granted things that we have. And then when they're pulled away, we're going, okay, you know, I think this is going to be good. I think this is making people step up more than ever. But I think that with any adversity comes change and growth, you know. What I say, like, in pain it's growing pains, and pain is growth. How are we able to evolve and change during these unprecedented times, you know, in any arena, not just music industry, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think humanity as a whole is definitely, hopefully the majority, taking this time to really gain a lot of perspective, just on how we behave as human beings, how we interact with one another, the things that you really miss when you're not able to do them. And, you know, everybody's gotten to this point, it feels like, with as far as things being canceled because of COVID, that nothing is really too surprising right now. Like, you know, people get up, you know, they're like, oh, this is shut down, or this is canceled, or this was open, now it's closed again. But it feels like the shock and awe factor of things being canceled is kind of worn on people. Right. But now what's happening, and I've seen this because we have a big rock festival up here in Wisconsin called Rockfest, which I was a part of for a decade, and was hosting their podcast and doing some hosting things for them on their stages. And it's like, this was the week. So now everybody's time hop on Facebook is popping up with memories of like last year we were getting ready for the big, 4 days of rock, and everybody's kind of getting mad about it. But I think perspective on everything that's going on in the world right now, when we come out of this, hopefully we come out, everybody wants to life get back to normal. You hope life gets back to a better normal, that it's a better place, that we come out of this after going through not just COVID, but, everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, murder hornets, dust from, Africa blowing over. I mean, we just had all these things on our plate for 2020. And we hope that we get out of here and we're better people now. We survived that.
There certainly feels like a kind of a more conscious world now. People are a little more conscious of their actions, conscious of their words, and hopefully conscious of the mark that they leave.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I said 5 or 10 people, every person matters, but every person matters. What I mean by that is like anyone can make a difference. We just got to decide whether that difference or that impact is positive or negative.
Yeah. You got a new song. It comes out, the date of this podcast, this live stream right now, comes out tomorrow. Big day. Tell us about going through this process. I know that people around here, they're excited about the new song. Get talking about the new song. Oh, they're dropping your link to your merch on here on the chat. So go buy some Joey A merch. That'd be awesome.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much to everyone tuning in. It means the most to me. We're a family. Let's get it. So 20-something rec. A lot of these songs have been songs I've had written for, 4 years now. And I decided now, it's time to start putting this stuff out. And this one we kind of produced up, and actually Greg and Dylan are playing on it. Basically how a song starts, I play all the instruments, I set it up, I build it, produce it, then I'll bring it over. Me and my buddy Jim Kaufman, we kind of recorded it with Greg and Dylan. And this is the first song in this installment of songs, an album, if you will, that we'll probably release as singles. And the record's called The Young. And it's about like love, life, loss, the whole messy thing. Like I said, the 20s are an incredibly, at least for me, they're like an incredibly confusing time. And it's almost like, graduate, okay, do well in school, okay, go to college, okay, get a job, okay, get married. And it's like, if you're trying to pursue something else, it's like, I don't know if it's that straight of a line.
Right.
Now I've been lucky. I said before commitment. It's not entirely true. I've been with the same girl for 6 years now. She's unbelievable. Unbelievable. She's my rock. But she's had to deal with a lot of this, the waves that come with life and with learning how to live. And that 20-something rec is almost it's a note to her. I'm a fucking wreck. I don't know myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm caught in a million mixed signals. I can't let them go. I'm lost in the snow. It's just a reference to Ohio, but it's almost like a love letter from a kamikaze pilot. Like, hey, I'm on a mission. You should run. But she doesn't, and I'm appreciative of that. But yeah, 20-something rec is the first single out of 2020. It's coming out tomorrow, and then we'll be releasing. It's looking like monthly or every 5 weeks releasing a single until probably for a year.
I love it, man. I love the new track. I had a chance to listen to it. Thank you for sending that to me. Like I said, the opening line, I was like, "Yep, I love it already." So this is a win. But I think talking about the 20s and not to throw my uphills both ways in the snow, virtues in here, but yeah, it does feel like there is this map that is supposedly plotted out for kids in high school, all the things you said, graduate, do well enough to graduate so you can get into a good school, figure out when you're like 18, 19, and 20, what you want to do with the rest of your life. Like, I was 39 when I kind of sort of figured out half-ass what maybe I wanted to do with the rest of, so that the structure that has been, that is really set up in society is this, well, your late teens, in your 20s. By the time you're 30, you better have your life like, you better have it figured out. 2.5 kids, house, car, and then probably a minivan or an SUV. Like all this structure is supposedly there, but in reality, I'm not sure if the majority actually figure out life until a much later time. And if you don't have it figured out right now, anybody who's hanging out in the chat, it's okay. It's okay.
Straight up. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And you were saying before, not to interrupt you, but you were just saying on the tip of the journey. It's about the journey. You know, what do they say? Like the point of the I have all these little things, but like the point of the journey is not to arrive or whatever. It's like, enjoy it while we're here. Enjoy it. And like, I think it doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we're all in some way a little bit of, I feel like a fucking wreck. I don't know how, you know what I mean?
Guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged. But there was, I think Gary Vaynerchuk, who is, if you're into business or really any aspect of doing anything social media wise, he's a great person to take advice from. But he said, if you look at your life in sports context as a football game or as a basketball game, and you kind of compartmentalize things quarter by quarter and say, and say you're going to live to be 100. Let's just throw that as an arbitrary number. You're going to live to be 100. At 25, you're through the first quarter of the game, and so let's say you're 25 at that point. Is the game over? Has the game been decided? Have you ever watched a football game? If you ever watched the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl from a couple of years ago, like things aren't over in the first quarter. They're not over at halftime. So if you kind of say, well, I've gotten to this point where I'm like, well, I'm not even at halftime of my life. Look at all the things that I've experienced. Look at all the things I can do now. It gives you that you can go through your 20s and be a fucking wreck and be like, I don't really have this figured out just yet. I don't have all of the answers that I was supposedly supposed to have at this juncture of my life, according to everybody who told me I should have it figured out by now. Like, it's cool. It's okay. And this song is just, I think, a great launching pad into the stories that you talked about. I'm not sure you're ever going to be able to give a better gift than to tell your girlfriend of 6 years that this is about her. You're going to have to really outdo yourself. I'm not sure I wrote this whole album for you. Like, what's for Christmas now? Like, what are we getting? Like, there's no greater gift, man.
That's funny. Thanks, man. I mean, I'm lucky to have great people in my life. You know what I mean? And I think we all have a lot of good people in our lives, that sometimes we take for granted. And like, all I can do, like I was saying, like with this kind of, it's not a concept record, but it's all about kind of, the young is kind of all about trying to figure out this weird thing they call life. And, the only thing I can do is just document my time on Earth. I could just tell my story, and some people will resonate. Hopefully, people resonate with it. That'd be awesome. And people are already starting to resonate with it, which I'm grateful for. But it might not be for everybody. You know what I mean? But it's my truth. And I think everyone's got a truth, and everyone can tell their truth.
Yeah, and I think the amazing part about from the fan to the artist is these songs on the young can be telling your truth, and somebody can hear it and it can be their truth, and the two stories could be completely different. It could be a completely different mindset or a reference point. When you write about a particular feeling or emotion that you had in correlation with an experience in your life, somebody else can take that, and that's the beauty of music, is that you can take it and be like, and then that's how you feel that. They feel it because they correlate it with an experience in their life. They say, damn, that dude knows exactly what I went through. And you're like, no, actually I was going through this, but it's what kind of molds it all together and brings people to the happy place that is enjoyment of music.
Totally. It's a communal thing. And that's why I love when artists don't give too much away on the songs, because it can mean something to everybody, something different to everybody,
So the new song drops tomorrow, 20-something Wreck. Where can people find it? Where can they listen. I mean, these people may not sleep tonight. They're like, I can't wait. I can't. Anticipation is killing me. You know, so they may just be up until like it drops somewhere. They're like, and somebody wants to be the first to post that they heard it. So where can they grab it coming up on the 10th?
I love that. So you can get them in all platforms basically. So it'll be Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that. And then the best way to ensure that you are able to get it or be able to follow up with us is you can go to iamjoeya.com and you could sign up for the A list there. It's like the newsletter. And we're gonna send it out to you directly that day with your choice of what streaming service you want to use.
That's awesome, man. Well, people are excited. I'm grateful that we connected and we had this chance to conversate about a plethora of things. I think we almost covered kind of everything. We solved all the world's problems in just under an hour. I feel pretty good about that. You know,
doing our best, man.
Hopefully you were taking copious notes there in the chat because we want to make sure we got that's how we get rid of murder hornets. That was the secret.
I don't know if we got to that one yet, man. Once you know, let me know, man, because those things look pretty big and terrifying.
That's been the weirdest. I mean, 2020 has been strange in itself, and it'll be one of those years that they will write books on. It'll become a part of curriculum for kids as they go through history class. Like, well, 2020, yet we get to be like the elders at some point in life. We're going to be the elders that get to tell the stories of 2020, and we'll be like, well, yeah, this, Kobe, and then COVID, and they'll be like, oh man, that sounds, and lockdowns and cancellations, and then we're going to come at them with murder hornets, and they're going to be like, oh, John, what the
murder hornet? I'm out.
Man,
I'm
out of this story. I don't.
Yeah. Go back to like how many cheeseburgers you ate in the kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
Like, let's go back to that part.
We gave everybody an excuse to stay at home on the couch and not do anything for like 5 months. Like, what? Like, really? Yeah, that was our solution to the problem is stay home, don't do anything. iamjoeya.com is the website. So go and check that out and make sure you subscribe to the A-list while you're on there. And that new single, man, I love it. I can't wait till I can jam to it again as soon as we get off here. Sorry, folks, I got a chance to listen to it early. It was one of the luxuries.
Dude, thank you so very much, Coop, for having me on. Thanks, Jody, for the hookup. And it means a lot. And I'm looking forward to a great friendship. And excited to share more music and maybe see you at a show soon.
Man, I can't wait for that. I'm excited for live shows. Excited to see you live and to see humans again. From a distance. 6 feet. I think that's what saves our lives. 6 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome, brother. Hey, take care of yourself. Congratulations on the new single. I know it's going to hit hard tomorrow, so everybody go and grab it. Joey A, I appreciate the time, brother. Take care of yourself, and yeah, let's stay in touch. Definitely, absolutely, man.
Sounds great, man. Really proud of you for doing all of your business ventures, and one love, man. I'll see you soon.
Awesome. Take care of yourself. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for joining us here on Twitch. All the A-listers that are here today, you guys are awesome. You're fantastic. Thank you for being a part of this today. We really appreciate it. Everybody take care of yourselves. Love one another. We're going to get through this and be all good.